Yo, Philly, what's happening?
Hey, yo, how you doing, Mick? Philly in the building, you know?
Spears and Steinberg.
You know what the fuck it is?
Aries and Andy, Jew and the Jerk.
You know it's time to get this work.
The real raw, gutter, uncut cocaine. No political corrections.
Always sleep.
Fuck being awoke. We discuss politics and jokes.
Subscribe, we lit.
There's levels to this shit. Before you was sucking on your mama's tit.
Aries Spears don't give a fuck.
We talk about race a lot, racism,
Sexism.
Much love to my loyal bitch bag holders.
Rollers, clip loaders.
We got them in the folders.
The whole world on our shoulders.
Spears and Steinberg.
Yeah.
I can't believe we haven't gone to see that statue all the times that we've been here. We need to do
We've
that.
never seen it.
No.
You know, I did one time see it with Neri.
Did you?
Yeah, we went and took pictures and ran up the steps and did the whole gay Rocky shit.
I ain't running.
Created the scene.
I'm not running up the steps.
Yeah, I've seen the statue. Once you've seen it, you've seen it. It's no big fucking deal.
I love Bill Burr's thing that his statues to fake
Yeah.
athletes.
So we're here in Philly, obviously. Well, let's we're gonna talk about mostly George Carlin, the school shooting, a little bit of the school shooting, the passing of a legend, Ray Liotta, and maybe the Hall. We were gonna also talk about Jane Elliott and this whole reparations thing, but we're gonna put that on ice maybe till next week. Give you guys a chance to do some homework and find out what all the controversy is. Cliff Notes. I had sent out a post a week or two ago about Jane Elliott basically saying that the original people really was not only black people, but the black woman. And I said, yeah, she can get the fucking recipe to the chitlins and the collard greens. And of course, a lot of black people hit me up and was like, nah, yo, we always thought she was down for us, but her views on reparations, fuck all that. So, you know, I didn't know. So I said to people, you know, send me and Andy what she actually said. Let's look at it, and then we'll break it down. We'll see if she gets her card revoked. Andy's seen it and heard it. I didn't see it or hear it, but enough people kind of gave me the gist of what she said. And we're not going to get into it now, but we're just saying all this to say, if you don't know, check it out because we're going to talk about it because, again, my big word is comprehension. If this were Sesame Street, this would be the word of the day. Comprehension. And I think a lot of you niggas can't comprehend.
But if you're not familiar with her either, please look up other things besides this one clip.
This white bitch be champion for niggas.
So look up the other things too so that you have some context. But
if actual nigga skin was a jersey, she would be wearing brown leather all over. So that's that. We just want to give you guys a head start so you can get in on that. So we're here in Philly. Before we get into that, Ray Liotta. Fuck you, pay me. You're funny. Funny how? Damn.
Jersey guy too.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I always thought, you know, just based on age, Clint Eastwood would go before him. But I don't know. I don't know. I think he might have been a heavy something. Drinker or...
Clint Eastwood, though, stayed in pretty good shape, though.
Yeah, Ray Liotta looks like... And, you know, again, I said this numerous times. There are some people who really can age gracefully. But overall, getting old stinks. And when you look at Ray Liotta, especially from Goodfellas, he was a stud, man. He was when the skin was tight and he was young, he was a stud, man.
There's a movie that he was in that I think is like no one.
He didn't age gracefully, and I think again I don't know what his vices were, but I think through the grapevine I heard he was a heavy drinker, and it looked like it took its toll on him.
Well, drinking fucks more people up than any. I mean, you see people that do heroin, they still usually have all their hair. They look all right, but drinking really fucks up your face.
Right,
like it really tires you out. But he had this movie, I think it's called After Hours, and that was with Melanie Griffin and. Damn, I forgot who else is in it. And it's a good movie. It's the craziest.
Unlawful Entry was one of my favorite movies with him.
That's a great movie. This other one's a semi-comedy. It's a dark comedy, the one that I'm talking about.
Okay.
Is it After Hours? I don't know.
Dude, I saw on TV a movie that I had never knew to exist called Domestic Disturbance where Vince Vaughn plays like an asshole, an evil stepdad. And and John Travolta's in it. And I just never knew this movie existed. And I was just channel surfing and I kind of caught glimpses of it. Man, Vince Vaughn, and I told you Vince Vaughn is one of my favorite, obviously from comedy, but that motherfucker got dramatic chops too.
I have not seen it. I heard about it, and I haven't seen it. I'm going to have to check it out because it looks good from what I've seen.
Right.
But I haven't seen it. You really liked it, though?
I downloaded it to watch on the flight here, and I didn't get a chance to watch it, so I'm going to watch it on the flight home. But I definitely wanted to see it because I'm a Vince Vaughn fan, and just a little bit that I saw where he was playing an evil prick looked interesting.
Yeah. I'm still trying to find this Ray Liotta. I don't think it's After Hours. I think that's a different movie. I'm going to find it, though. So let's keep going, and I'll find my stupid movie.
I mean, that's really all I got
on Ray.
Yeah.
I kind of worked them into my joke about people who are dead. People were a little put off by it, but it's called Something Wild. That's what it was. Something Wild. If you haven't seen this, check this out. It's a dark comedy, and it's with who else is in it? Jeff Daniels. It's so weird because of the people that are in it. Check it out. I worked them in, and people are so offended by death. And this is the thing, guys. And with me, and Aries gets weird about me too. You know, we're all going to do it.
Right.
Dude, if you like how people get excited about losing their virginity, we're all going to lose our life card at one point too. I'm not saying bring it on. I'm just saying it's a part of life. And we're looking at a guy like Ray Liotta who led, for all accounts, the life that he took his life and control of his life into his own hands. And he seems like he had a pretty interesting life. I mean, I'm not saying I would trade him my life for his life because I don't know what personal things people go through.
Right.
But you look at his life and you go, yeah, he made it work.
Yeah. So
I don't understand why people are so upset when I know it's final and you're not going to get to see this guy again, but people get really offended when you.
Well, I mean, I don't think people just, that's the thing again about celebrity and television and movies. You come into people's lives, and you become I would say, always say with music, the soundtrack. Music is the soundtrack to everybody's life. Some of your most exciting moments in life, losing your virginity, fucking the right woman, going through heartache and pain, celebrating good times. Music's always there. And I think that, same thing with entertainment. These movies have an effect on you. They draw emotion from you. So there's a connection and you feel like somebody you knew personally, even though you didn't know him personally, died.
Well, I can agree with that. And they get it personal about it, but I don't see it. But when you said that, I think music more so, because music gives you more of a timeline to your life. It brings you back to the moment when you hear certain things. And the reason I'm saying this is because we were at that bar last night and they were playing ABBA. They were playing Dancing Queen.
Oh, Dancing Queen. Doo-doo. Well, I swear, there is nothing. Dude, shame on you, Aries. I swear to God, I'm going to get to do this fucking joke because there's nothing more exciting or watching white people just alcohol and in big numbers. There's such a freedom to y'all when you dance and when you come together with alcohol and music. Y'all, God, all your inhibitions are gone. You don't care how foolish you look. Your arms flail. Guys totally look like dorks. White guys have no cool. There is no cool to white men when they fucking drink and dance. They're like fucking toddlers. They're like babies, children. It's just, niggas, again, we are defined by cool. Curtis Mayfield, I'm your mama, I'm your daddy, I'm that nigga in the alley. Al Green with Shaft. We are cool, nigga, when we do what we do. Y'all are just loose and free and everything goes out the window. It's hilarious to watch.
I like Billy Crystal when he said the white man overbite.
Yeah, white guys, y'all just do things you should never do on a dance floor.
What's funny though, like white dudes can stay in a 1-2.
No, they can't.
Yeah, they can because it's 1-2, 1-2. They can get that. But for whatever reason, as soon as they have a drink, that's gone. It goes back to what you said. No, it goes back to what you said.
I'm not giving you that. White dudes can't stand it. White women I've seen more white women be on point than white men.
I just think, like you said, freedom, though. They go from 1 to 30, like you said.
Oh, it's the numerical bop. It's crazy. It's just, you know.
But what I don't understand is, and this is for me.
And listen, okay, I don't know what the white male macho song would be, but there are certain songs obviously designed for women, and there are certain songs that cater more towards men. What's that one song? They always play it in all the movies. It's the popular female song, Never Gonna Cry, Gonna Say Goodbye. Do you know?
Yeah.
Do you know?
Yeah.
That whatever that's
Wilson Phillips.
Wilson Phillips.
Yeah.
That is a woman's anthem. Okay?
The only reason I know that is because that's what they that
Bridesmaid.
Yep, that's it.
Yeah,
That's
but they play that song in a lot of women's movies. But okay, the black version of that would be Gloria Gaynor. And I happen to listen to that fucking song. Now this is gonna fuck me up. Well, whether it's Shaka Khan's "I'm Every Woman,"
Shaka Khan,
not that one, but Shaka Khan's
I like that one.
"Every Woman," or Gloria Gaynor's. I'm sorry, I gotta look this up. This is gonna kill me because I actually like this fucking song. I listen to it relentlessly.
I don't remember the title of it, but I used to, when I DJ'd, used to use that song to get, because if you bring the women to the dance floor, then everybody comes out.
I got a feeling Deidre Ann Johnson knows this, and she's screaming it to me right now. Gloria Gaynor. All I gotta do is put it on YouTube, and the name will pop up. Okay, Gloria Gaynor. God damn, this is my song.
This is where you get in touch with your Sex in the City vibe.
Yeah, Gloria Gaynor. I will survive. That ain't it though. Gaynor. Oh God. Fuck! This is making me mad. Gloria Gaynor songs. All right, either one. You get the fucking point. It's either I Will Survive or fucking Shaka Khan's I'm Every Woman. There's certain songs. Now that is the black woman's Phillips. What was it called?
Wilson Phillips.
That's their Wilson Phillips. You would never see a black man dancing to I'm Every Woman or I Will Survive. You would never see niggas do that. We'll dance to Al Green. We'll dance to Marvin Gaye. We'll dance to Curtis Mayfield. But we ain't dancing to that. White guys will dance to a dancing queen.
Well, yeah, and what's also funny about, to me, when I brought it up is because you said what we were saying, you can connect with it because of your past.
Right.
What are these young dudes at the bar and girl, what are they connecting to?
They're trying to get some pussy. That's one. That's why they're doing it.
But what are the women connecting to? This is a song from the 80s. What is that? I was probably going back to the 70s. Early 80s.
Well, they probably heard it through their parents.
But what are you connecting to when you're at the bar? And they're screaming it at the top of their lungs, bouncing.
I'm telling you, man.
Bouncing, not dancing, bouncing. Call it bouncing from now on.
Listen. When your people get alcohol in them and the music comes on, y'all are like free children with no parental supervision. The dancing, the mosh pit of emotions, it's through the roof. It's through the roof.
I just don't know what they're connecting to. That's the only thing. But you know,
how white girls will sing the songs and look in each other's faces and sing the songs in unison and the lyrics and point to each other. The white dudes do that with them. No nigga is doing that.
I think the white dudes are just hoping they're going to kiss.
Okay, again, trying to get some pussy, a sexual turn on. Since we're almost in that vein, here's something as I keep peeling away this onion and I keep telling you, Andy surprises me more and more and more. And I don't want to jinx it, so I'm not going to say too much, but I'll say this. I have a connection where if the stars align correctly, all I'm going to say is Grand Theft Auto 6, the video game. I think my wish may come true. And I'm telling you, as much as we call Andy GTA Andy, imagine Andy and Aries' voice. Imagine the Spears and Steinberg podcast in the next Grand Theft Auto as one of the stations when you get in the car. If that happens, my dick will be on 24-hour, 7-day-a-week erection. And I'm good. I'm good. Yo, we know Andy with the coke. We know him with the motorcycle. We know him with the bitches, the rich friends, money laundering. This nigga, last night when we left the club, this drunk white dude, bald head, looked like he could have been a skinhead, comes up to me and goes, hey man, big fan, man. Aries funny as fuck, blah, 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 blah. And he's tipsy. But then he ends it with, just don't do none of that, say none of that Black Lives Matter shit. So I immediately gave him the visual facial fuck you and walked away.
I was going back to my room at that point.
And he was going back to his room at that point. Once I'm sitting at the bar getting ready to order my drink, over my shoulder pops Andy. I thought you was bouncing. He was like, nah, yo, after he said that and you went in and he came in behind you, I came in. Andy was prepared to throw hands, yo. I said, this motherfucker. Man, I'm telling you, this dude is, the only thing left is to find out is if his dick is huge. That's it.
It's not.
Everything else is falling into place for this motherfucker being a badass Jew. And then, eventually Andy left when it looked like things would be cool and nothing popped off. But here's what was interesting. The same dude who first complimented me, then said, don't do none of that Black Lives Matter shit. As I'm standing outside smoking my cigarette, this motherfucker walks by the window and gives me the big finger to my face. Fuck you. So clearly it's alcohol that's fucking with this dude. But I didn't pay it no mind. But what was interesting to me was 10 minutes later, the bar is playing hip hop. He's dancing to hip hop. He's reciting the lyrics to hip hop. But prior to that, it was fuck you to the black man's face and fuck Black Lives Matter. Paul Mooney, everybody want to be a nigga, but don't nobody want to be a nigga. D.L. Hewley, you want our rhythm, but you don't want our blues. My quote, it's cool to be black. It's advantageous to be white. 3 comedians all saying the same thing in a sense. It's amazing. When it comes to cool, when it comes to hip, slick, slang, niggas are the shit. White people love black culture. They love it like a seasoning. But when it comes to all the other shit, you want nothing to do with us. That's funny to me.
That was an exceptional person, though, and you could.
But there's a lot of exceptional people like him.
There are, but you could smell it on this dude.
And again, I'm not saying, because look, who you are is who you are,
Yeah.
and they say alcohol brings out who you really are. But obviously, I know alcohol played a part in that, but it doesn't excuse the fact that that's him, though.
Yeah, it's true. But this Philly thing, man, Philly has a very interesting dichotomy of people. Like I see the strangest things going on.
Damn it. Go ahead.
I always see like the weirdest, just weird things going on. Like last night when I was leaving to go back to the room, and I got kind of close to the room, there's this side street, and there was this dude, I guess, who was like laying back. I don't know how fucked up he was, but he looked pretty fucked up. And there was a girl on top of him, and she was grinding on him, and she was wearing a skirt. I think she was trying to get it in. But that wasn't the part that was entertaining. There was a homeless dude who was across the street.
Right.
And he kept peeking out of the corner because he was trying to get his own show.
Right.
Because I didn't think about it. If you don't have a phone, like a smartphone, you can't get video. This homeless dude, this was his video. This was going to allow him to run back into the alley and jerk it before he went to sleep.
Homeless seaman.
So he's trying to watch this, and I'm watching him trying to watch them. Which was way more entertaining than watching these 2 fucked up people on the street trying to, I don't know what they were trying to do. And if the dude was as out as I thought he was, she was raping him.
And let me just say for the record, Andy's friend here in Philly, author, took us to D'Alessandro's. D'Alessandro's, is that right?
Yeah, D'Alessandro's.
So now I've had Geno's and Pat's, which of course most Philadelphians despise because they say it's the tourist spot.
It is a tourist spot. That doesn't mean the food isn't good, though. That's the thing that they're not saying.
All right. I've had D'Alessandro's. I've had Ishkabibble. I've had, what was the other one?
You had Jim's and you had John's pork.
I've had Jim's and I've had John's pork, whatever.
Pork roast sandwich place.
I still got to tell you, Pat's is my favorite. I don't like the way they chop up the meat at the other places to where it's like diced. I like Pat's. They put the whole flat steak on there, cook it up, put it with the bread, a little bit of onions, the cheese whiz. You know, Pat's is
They
the
chop
best
it
to
up,
me.
but it's in strips. They leave it in strips.
Yeah, I like Pat's better. So D'Alessandro's was cool, but I don't like the way they dice that meat up.
There's a place in Philly right by my house called not Philly, in Jersey, called Picadillos, I think it is. And they use a whole ribeye, and then they just do that, and then they make it like a cheesesteak, but it's not chopped up at all. It's more like Geno's. It's a whole piece, but it's good. I don't know. I don't care, to be honest. I think it's meat and steak, but I'll tell you, and this is the thing that I think gets missed about Pat's. When it's 2:30 in the morning or 3 o'clock in the morning, and you're up and you want something to eat, yeah, that cheesesteak is good. Growing up in Arizona, man, there's a few taco places you can go late night.
Right.
But that cheesesteak, that hits different. You're full. You eat a cheesesteak, you go home, you go to bed.
Listen, I won't do it tonight because I've done it. When did I get here? I got here Wednesday. So I did it Wednesday, Friday, and last night.
3.
Right. And
Plus the D'Alessandro's.
So I'm cheesesteaked out, but I have to go as often as possible because I'm in Philly once a year. So I won't be here till next year, so I got to get my fill. That's why I'm like big when I go places where there's a White Castle. There's no White Castle on the West Coast. So when I got to take advantage of it while I'm there. But by the time I'm done, I'm done.
Yeah, but this White Castle fucks you up. By the way, if you're doing late night food in Arizona, because I just said tacos, Speedy Tacos right by the airport, 24 hours a day. And it's good.
All right, let's talk about George Carlin.
Okay, I got to stop you though before you talk about Carlin. And this ain't personal, man.
It's just been.
There you go, Steve.
All right, I don't have anything. So
what? No, that's fine. Now you can just drop the commercials in.
I think I'm going to make a confession here. Carlin, like most great comics, are all about truth. And I've been partly lying to you guys. I always say when people ask greatest comedians of all time, I go, Murphy, Pryor, and I always say Carlin. I get Carlin's trailblazing ways. For the time, I get it. And you have to credit the man for that many goddamn specials. But after watching this, and I kind of always felt this way, but I went, stop lying, Aries. I don't want to take anything away from Carlin, because I get it. Trailblazer, the 7 words, for that time, get it. But a lot of what he did, I don't get. And a lot of what he did doesn't make me laugh. And a lot of what he did, to me, felt, as you said, again, I don't know if preachy is the right word, but a lot of valiant, truthful points, what to me didn't make me laugh. I got the point. I understood it. I understood the truth, but it didn't make me laugh. And I feel like I always say Carlin along with Pryor and Murphy because I'm supposed to. And I've been lying to myself. Carlin don't do it for me like that, man.
That's fair for him not to do it for you. And that's cool. That's your taste. And I think Carlin is a different taste than the other comics that you just mentioned, both Pryor. Right. Although I do think there's some similarities between Pryor and Carlin. Mm-hmm. I don't feel there's so many similarities between Murphy and Carlin. But what I realized from watching this, and I used to say preachy like it was I think what it is with me is I always understood like the genius behind what he was saying and the honesty of what he did. And it's what I aspired to do when I tried to do a lot of times. Right. I'm not on his level at all, but I'm trying. That's the honesty that I would like to get to. And I felt it preachy, and this is why I feel it's preachy to me. And this is what it was. And I realized it when I watched it. It's to tell me something serious and then make the face, those faces, the silly face, the big eyes, if you give me something that's real, Don't make I don't need the clown face with it. If you're going to give me something real, deliver it real as a comic, stand there and give it to me, and then let me have that. But don't put the clown face on it to make me feel better about what you just said.
Right.
Because one of the things that I do appreciate, and he really, watching this made me feel different about him. I actually came away respecting him more and finding him funnier than I did before. To say that he's basically an outside observer and he's basically reporting on life made me really understand why I felt what I did. And I used to think it was talking down, but he's really talking with me, not down to me, because I understood what he was saying when he talks about the planet, when he talks about us as humans. I get all that because this is my hatred that I go through daily. And as people are seeing me more recently, I think I'm delivering that more honestly than I've ever have. So I walked away with a different thing. I walked away with more respect for Carlin and actually appreciated him more. And it's easier for me to put him up there actually after I saw it. I just don't like I think where I felt it was coming off wrong to me is the clown face. I don't need a silly face when you tell me something is horrible. Believe it, let it be horrible. I think, and maybe that's why some people don't like me, is that I'm not trying to give you an out. I'm trying to make you realize something when you listen to what I say. And then the greatest part of that is I love the comics who were saying Carlin does this, Carlin gives you this, Carlin's giving you the truth. And then I love Seinfeld to go on, yeah, I get it, but I never heard a comic that changed my opinion about something. And I think that's fair. I don't
remember the second part to that quote, which was vital.
Go ahead.
He said, I never say that part again.
I never had a comedian that made me change my opinion about something.
But I have seen a comic that made me change my opinion on him.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. But I also think that a comic might not make me change my opinion, but it will open the door to me to listening to hear how that other opinions work into that. I don't think the joke makes me change the opinion. It opens up the door for me to hear more conversation about it because I found that interesting enough that I'm listening different. I think a comedian can get you to listen differently.
Right.
And I don't know if that's just me or what I want to believe, but I think that I think that comedians have made me listen differently.
Right. When he said, there is no authority, all authority comes from within. Do you agree or disagree? And I'm not even sure I understood what he meant by that.
There is no authority?
Yeah, he said there is no authority. All authority comes from within.
I'm sorry. I don't remember it. And so I don't know the context behind it. But I would agree with that statement as a whole. There is no people tend to do what they want to do, regardless of authority. It's within themselves to make those decisions.
Next time niggas is getting billy clubbed to death, I'm going to make sure we need to tell them there is no authority. All authority comes from within. Well, and see if that stops.
But okay, let's
tell that to niggas that there is no authority.
Well, let's take that for an example. After something is brutal and you see a march or you see something that happens and then you see the outcome of that, there's no authority in that after effect. The authority is from within. People have decided to take on whatever was, they confront what was happening. Now, you saying as the state holds weight over the individual, yes. But when all the individuals get together, they can move the state. Right. So, but I don't think that's exactly what he was talking about there.
Right. It's like the same way I asked you with Pryor. When Pryor first started out, to his own admission, he was like Bill Cosby.
He was doing the Cosby.
He was doing Cosby. And then he eventually found out who he was, and thus the world became great. The comedic world and we as comedic consumers were better for it. It's kind of same thing with Carlin. How he started off as the suit and tie guy.
Yeah.
And then turned into the hippie guy. Had he not done that, do you think he still could have been?
No. And Pryor wouldn't be Pryor. You have to break. They were doing what was acceptable. And this is where this is a great example. This is a perfect example right now. Right now, as we're fighting, and there's comics that are not siding on this, and it disturbs me about how we need to speak and what is correct and what is incorrect. If you march as a comic down the correct line, or what is thought to be correct without exploring that with an audience, you get Carlin in a suit, you get Pryor doing Cosby, you get what's acceptable. There is no change in that. You have to go and do what Carlin said, to know where the line is and deliberately cross it. Because there's no way to find out what it is unless you cross that line. So the comics have to be able to explore that. And now, I don't think comics should always have the freedom where they should just be able to go, well, it's a joke. Yeah, but you put it out there, so now you're responsible for it. But be responsible for it. I don't think you should be afraid of getting in trouble for it. But, this is now we're talking about, that's me, because I don't have anything that they can take away. I'm not making $1 million from a company.
Right.
So,
and listen, at first I remember when Carlin said that, him and his wife had a house in escrow, and she was his biggest cheerleader and telling him, do what's in your heart, be yourself. Whereas maybe some women, if, you got a house in escrow and bills to pay and kids to feed, would tell you, no, why would you do that? Why don't you stay as a working comic in Vegas where you're making a great living as opposed to following your dream? And I mean, obviously, eventually at some point it worked out for him being who he was. And you'd like to believe that being who you really want to be will work out for you. But like Chappelle said, and I've quoted on here, it's like people love and respect real so much, but real pays next to nothing. And the reward for being real and honest at times is not very rewarding at all. But then you go, well, why do you do it then? And it feels like, if money is what moves you, and that's truly what it's about, or fear of not being able to pay your bills or your mortgage or support your family is what cripples you, then yeah, you stay in that safety zone. But if you want to be true to yourself and be able to look yourself in the mirror and be proud of what you see and what you stand for, then you take that leap of faith, even though it truly is a leap of faith into the unknown in case it doesn't turn out the way that you want to. And it feels like a lot of times it doesn't. And it's not rewarding. Thus Dave's, hey man, you my hero. I don't want to fuck your hero, nigga. I'm trying to be rich. Because being a hero is not rewarding,
But can you do both?
That's the quest that I'm on.
To be your authentic self?
And I think, look, and it ain't like the path hasn't been laid. Dave Chappelle is his authentic self, 60 million. Carlin was his authentic self and eventually came into the money, despite dropping what was secure. So yes, I do think it can be done, but I think it's the road less traveled.
I think there's another part to it, though. I don't think if you want to be your authentic self, you can't do it for the money. Right. You have to be comfortable in knowing that you may only be this, and that's enough.
Right.
And once you get that freedom of that this is enough, that's when I think other things can happen for you. Right. But I don't think that you can go into it going, I want to be my authentic self, and I expect people to believe in this person, and then I'm going to be rich, because if being rich is not your authentic self.
Right.
And that if being rich was your authentic self, you'd go into banking. You'd become a money man. If you're an artist, your authentic self, you have to be able to be passionate about your authentic self. And if money comes, then you're ready for it. If you're not, I don't think it makes a difference.
I love at the beginning and in the very opening of these two parts, part one. And this is where I say I do tip my hat to Carlin. Again, I get it. The 7 words, the timing in which all of this took place. He, like Lenny Bruce and like Pryor, was a trailblazer. But again, when I finished listening to these rants and I finished listening to his truth, I applaud like the audience and go, woo, truth. Yes, honesty. I just go, where's the funny? When the first thing he mentioned, and I know I don't really have this rant down, but I'm gonna read from my own shit. As I've said so many times in the past, it's hard to make any one point more valid than the other, because if you are able to present a strong enough argument, both sides can be right and both sides could be wrong. It feels like there is no actual facts to support either one completely, or there can be to support either one completely. When he spoke about everyone has rights and brought God and religion into it, but at the same time pointing out the hypocrisy when he ended with, what about slavery? And, you know, I even recently got into an argument with a dude on Instagram lately, a couple of days ago, when I sent out this post that said, thoughts and prayers don't work. We have to do something. And the guy hit me up and was like, Aries, every time something bad happens, you want to blame God. And I remember somebody else wrote, every time y'all talk about God and religion, I want to fast forward past the podcast. Well, again, one of my biggest goals is to talk to a man of the cloth, the same way we had the conversation about the transgender situation and we had an actual transgender person. Same way we talked about COVID, vax versus unvaxxed, and we had Brother Rizza Islam on. I feel like this is such a heavy topic that, you know, rather than two people give their points of view, even if Andy and I oppose each other, it'd be great to have an actual representative of that to answer these questions. And the way Carlin broke down, you know, you want to believe there's this invisible force in the sky that does this and does this and does that. And I just go, again, for all the shit that you want to believe, or all the shit that you say is true, or the sayings about religion and God, I can poke the holes in those arguments. I could point out the contradictions and hypocrisy, which historically have been around since forever. I can give you so many examples. Now, if you want to combat that with all your examples of why it's true, well, why I'm wrong, we could play that game all day long. But when Carlin broke it down the way he broke it down, I didn't have to hear that to go, oh, he shed light on me. I've been saying that. I believe what he said. It makes sense to me. It seems obvious. It seems logical. So I'll give him credit for that. He's good at pointing out the truth. Now, if you don't want to embrace that truth, or you want to deny it as truth, well, then that's where we have the arguments.
I love when he does that. He breaks it down and does everything that you just said. But then he makes that face at the end. I don't need the face.
But that's maybe his comedy.
That maybe is his comedy. But to me,
and if that is his comedy, that's why I'm going, you did all that to do that?
That's what really hurts it for me. That is what hurts it for me, because I mean, maybe that was his way of being like, okay, you know, sorry for the truth. I don't know. It just, that was my sticking point, I guess. And it's minor compared to the art form that he made. I just felt it was like it was like a great sentence with bad punctuation.
That's why, again, I give Dave and guys like him, Patrice, so much credit, because when you really look at, anytime you do a joke that's considered taboo, risque, dangerous, the true mastery to me in that is making sure your punchline is the payoff. Because the more dangerous, the more of a minefield that is, fine. But unless you really masterfully come up with a punchline that supersedes that, then to me you failed.
See, I disagree with you.
Like when Patrice, again, the honesty of telling women on stage in his half-hour HBO special, basically, y'all are useless. We don't need you. You know, women fuck up all the fun. And then he goes on to do the joke about women, if you lost your pussy in a terrible train accident, how would you please your man? And he let them dig their own hole. Suck his dick. Anal. Fuck. Jack him off. Okay, y'all said asshole, blowjob, regular sex, jack him off. So y'all want me to treat you special, but you just reduced yourself to a series of holes. Powerful, witty, funny. When you fuck with women, they automatically get on the defensive because they feel you're belittling them. The men that want to laugh can't laugh because they feel like if they don't defend their women's honor, they're in the doghouse. So for Patrice to put that in such a fashion where when he's done, like the Katrina, the dams have been broken. The men are laughing. Fuck that. The women are going, I don't want to laugh, but fuck that. That to me is potent. When Dave Chappelle does a joke about telling the Emmett Till story and the equanimity, one of my favorite specials of his, and he brings up the example about the standing too close to an elephant, and when you back away, you could see its penis-like skin. And then, of course, ending it with, and then I'd kick her in the pussy. That punchline matches the intensity of the joke, of the premise, of the story. That's where Carlin falls short to me. Those punchlines, if they're even punchlines, doesn't match all that rant, all that truth, all that seriousness.
Yeah, see, I disagree with that because I think it's the intellectual part in a comic that makes it work. And it's great when it meets up. Like, okay,
so what's the percentage with him, intellectual and funny?
I guess it depends on who's rating it.
I'm asking you to rate it.
I think his most. It depends. It depends. If we go to his early career with 7 Dirty Words, it was actually intellectual because it was the way the government was working words. That one, it was probably 40% intellectual and 60% funny. I thought 7 Dirty Words was a very funny concept at that time period. But when we go to his later stuff, he's probably 30% funny and 70% intellectual. It depends on where it hits, though, and how it hits. I think that you can ruin a good joke by trying to make something funny when you lose the intellectual part of it. But see, this is where we differ sometimes. When I'm like, it's more important what I'm saying than how much laughter there is.
So you think that sometimes it's more important in terms of what you're saying than the funny?
Yeah.
You think that's more important than the funny?
I think that if I gave you funny throughout the whole thing to put a punchline in just for the sake of being funny, ruins the joke.
Okay, but if the intellectual part is there. That's not going anywhere. So if your funny is less than the intellectual, how is that a good thing?
I didn't say it was a good thing. I think when you said Patrice's, when he does that and he turns it around and said you just reduced yourself to a bunch of holes.
Yeah.
That's when it becomes genius.
Okay.
But in a joke, I'd rather have a joke that ends with me thinking about it than a joke that ends with me having a laugh and I basically threw out the intellectual part. But
when you say throw out the intellectual part, you mean throw out as in like you just threw it away?
Yep. No, it dominated the joke. If you put a punchline in that doesn't reference the intellectual part, that doesn't bring you to the conclusion of how smart it was, you just put in a punchline for a punchline so that everybody can laugh at the end. That takes away from the other part of it.
But the other part of it doesn't go anywhere. Once you put that out there and that's your setup, that's there. The punchline should always be bigger than the first part.
I don't. If you made a great point and it was funny throughout the whole thing, why does the punchline have to be bigger than everything else?
Give me an example of what you're talking about.
I guess I would have to think about it here for a minute. I don't do that well. Okay. My favorite Pryor joke, favorite Pryor joke, the one that I just really liked the most is when that got me to understand what comedy was. I think it's funny that when white families leave their home, drive through a black neighborhood, and they see all the kids on drugs, they're like, oh my God, look at all those poor black kids on drugs. And they drive back then by the time they turn around, get home, go through their neighborhood, all the white kids are on drugs, and they go, oh my God, it's an epidemic. Nothing in there is that funny. Nothing in there is strikingly funny.
Okay.
But it's an observation that becomes funny in the irony of the joke. The irony was more important than a punchline. The irony of the joke became important.
I mean, I guess that's okay if you got an entire album and there's one or two of those in there. But if that's your whole album.
But to me, you're right. If you're going to pay for an album, you want to hear it. You want to get some laughs in there as well. I understand that. But to me, that was the most important part of that album that I heard, because without that, I wouldn't understood irony as a young person. I wouldn't understood how to use irony and comedy to make a point, a serious point. That showed me something. that taught me something.
Okay.
So that was a big deal.
Right.
I mean, there was just a quote from Chappelle that said he got the best advice ever from a comic when he was younger, and he said he wasn't necessarily the funniest comic. Is what's funny about it, but he said the best advice ever was you don't have to be funny all the time, but you always have to be interesting.
Okay, I would agree with that to a degree, as long as interesting is not the dominant factor over funny. You don't have to be funny all the time, but be interesting. But I think if you're just completely interesting with a little bit of funny, what's the point in that?
Well, when you watch John Leguizamo specials,
Right?
is he more interesting than funny, or is he more funny than interesting?
That's too subjective for me to answer because John is a talent nonetheless.
He is a talent. There's
and his one man shows, I get it, but one man shows don't do it for me like that. But I'm not going to deny that John is talented and good at what he does.
But it was interesting. The whole special's interesting. You listen to every word. So if you have 30 huge punchlines,
I don't know many people that just go, I'm going to go see something just because it's interesting.
But interesting entertainment. Sometimes entertainment and intellectual entertainment is hidden by interesting and hidden by funny.
Right.
It's just like when you get served your medicine with a spoonful of sugar. Isn't that what it is? A spoonful of sugar with your medicine. So you taste the sugar, but you don't taste the medicine.
Right.
I can't have empty calories. I need to tell you something that has some meaning to me. It just can't be funny to me.
Right.
And that's why people perceive me as angry or, not fun sometimes, but that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And it's why I want a podcast when I'm not, I can be more serious than just funny. And it was funny last night when the guys told me, hey man, I wouldn't know you were that funny off the podcast.
Because you don't show that.
Because I'm a serious person. The funny is.
Let me ask you something. And this actually brings me to my next point. But before I get to that, Patton Oswalt, and this is all it's tied in together. When Patton Oswalt said every comedian wants to get to that place where whoever you are off stage is who you are on stage. And I wanted to ask, my one question to you became, and it's kind of that, Andy, do you feel that you are the same person? Because I don't. You're funny on stage. Off stage, you are as plain as cornflakes with no sugar sometimes, which is partly why I say on this podcast, you're not nearly as funny as I would like you to be. And that's because you're not on stage and you don't see this as a podcast. You see it as a performance. So my question to you.
I see it as a podcast, not a performance. Yeah.
Okay. So my question to you is this. You not being funny on this podcast, is that truly because you see it as a podcast and not a performance? Or truth be told, you just don't have the ability to be. And some people just don't possess that ability. That's why, and I'm not trying to say that to come at you a certain way, but it's like, listen, there's an art to interviewing.
Yeah.
There's an art to being funny on the radio. There's an art to being funny on stage. Some guys do better with those than others. I've had radio people tell me, we had such and such in the comedian, most boring, flat interview we've ever had. Because if they're not hearing, is that my setup? Is that where I'm supposed to do the dance now? They can't do it. They're used to a formula and a playbook that anything outside of that, they can't do it. Very few guys possess the ability to be funny with it all. So I go, I know Andy's funny on stage. I've seen it. Excuse me. I've seen you get better at crowd work. I see you taking more chances. There's no doubt that on stage, you're a funny guy. But on this podcast, you don't come off that way. And again, is it because you just don't see this as a performance platform, or you just don't have that ability?
One, there's also an art in being the other guy on the podcast to let someone else be funny.
Yes.
That's what I do better than anything else on this podcast.
Okay.
Because I don't get in the way. Steve Kerr never got in the way, got in the lane, and fucked up Jordan's dunks.
Okay.
And that's very important. That's very important to the team element of this. Two, there's a very funny guy extremely funny guy who's not with us anymore. I'll say who it is. It's Robin Williams. And one of the things about Robin Williams is that he was never off. He was never off. He was always performing, always the funniest guy, whether it was at the dinner, whether it was at wherever he was the funniest guy in the room. My hole isn't that big. I don't have to fill whatever my insecurity is.
But why do you, well, wait a minute, though, why do you automatically go to assuming he's filling an insecurity? Maybe he's just that dude.
And those dudes usually exist because they're filling something.
Usually. But I don't think that's fair to just say, oh, that's him doing that because he needs to fill a hole. Maybe that's just who he was.
Maybe, but I just don't need that much attention. And so on the podcast, when I can talk about things that I believe in and serious, because my comedy reflects this, but it's in a way that it's with the sugar. It's so that you can get it down. I don't have any need to be anybody else. So when they say, "Are you on?" That is who I am on stage. Who I am in real life. That's a part of me. Who I am on stage. This is another part of me. But I don't. The two are interchangeable to me. If I needed to be the funny, when I'm on radio without you, when I'm on without you, when I have to go do, I'm funny. I'm fine. I can tell the stories. I can command the conversation. I can move it towards what I need it to do.
Right.
But I don't need to do that all the time. It doesn't affect me. I'm going to be the same person when I go home.
Right.
And I like dry comedy. And when I'm with just people that are friends, I like the simple things. I like the simple parts of comedy.
Okay.
And, I shouldn't say that. You're right. I shouldn't say that about Robin Williams. I don't know him personally, but from what I understand, there was a big need to be there like that.
Well, I mean, when we talk about the Hall, the guy that John Mulaney, he's the guy that, was kind of like his presenter. And he said something, and I will get to that when we get to the Hall, but he said something that, I kind of had to take a step back and like, what? Given the irony of the person he was talking about when he talked about depression, which again could go into what you're saying about filling some need. I don't know. I didn't know Robin personally. I just don't know. So I don't know that
I only know the stories.
Right. I don't know that he was always on because he was trying to fill some sort of hole, which might have played a part in his depression, or was he legitimately just that because that's who he was? So I don't know. Do you think that I'm the same person on stage as I am off?
It's pretty close.
Yeah.
Pretty close. You like being funny, but you don't have a desire. Your desire changes when you're off stage.
I don't have a desire to force it.
Yeah, you don't have to force it. You don't have to try to be funny. But when you see an opportunity,
right. But if it naturally feels comfortable to me and I see a funny opportunity, I take it because I don't like letting funny escape the room or escape the moment.
I say things to people while I'm walking down the street that make people just go, "What?" Because I'll say things and they'll funny, they'll be laugh, but they're more surprising. They're subtle. It's not about trying to be the funniest guy in the street.
Right.
But I entertain myself when I'm walking.
Right.
Now, I think I'm pretty close to who I am in real life on stage.
Right.
And if the funny comes through, then that's great.
When Bill Burr talked about the mechanics of Carlin, he talked about the way he would hold the mic in proximity to his mouth. Do you think that there's anything to that, or that's just a bunch of...
No, I think there's things to it because it changes it changes the way you project. It changes the sound. See, Class Clown, Carlin's album, right?
Yeah.
I think that's part of it. I mean, I think that's part of the Carlin that as I really love, what I love about comedy is what I don't like about Carlin. And I don't need the clown to deliver it to me. That's the problem. I saw the genius in Carlin. I want the genius to deliver me these notes, not the clown. And when he talks about the micro, it's great to be able to do sound effects. It's great to be able to do this. But like you just said, this is where I think me and you look at things a little differently. I think what he said is more important than the face or the sound effect or the anything that goes with it. If you have something worth saying and you want to deliver it to someone, say it. And I think that's why I love Chappelle so much right now. when he does things, it's the interesting first, find the funny. Mine it till you find the funny. And that's just that is what I enjoy in comedy. To be able to look at something that everybody else has looked at thousands of times, but you found something funny in it.
But you know how you just said that with conviction? If you find something funny, say it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you live up to that? Because very often you will say things off stage that you won't say on stage, or you'll say things to me off stage, but when it's time for you to actually do it, you kind of ease up a little bit.
Because I don't know if it means the same thing to me all the time.
It meant it to you at the time.
At
You
that
told
moment,
me.
at that moment.
So what's changing for you when it's time to put it on its feet?
Sometimes I don't know if it conveys what I really want to say about me.
Is any of that fear?
No,
Honestly,
I don't think so. The only thing that I think that I have, I'm going to tell you what my biggest thing, and I don't think it's fear. I think I have too much respect for people. And I think I need to lose some of that because I realize, and I'm realizing it more and more, even the people that I like in the audience that I enjoy, sometimes I talk to them after the show,
right?
And I'm like, I hate these motherfuckers. And I'm giving them too much respect I'm worried about how their enjoyment of the evening is going to be. And that shouldn't even be in my mind. That shouldn't be part of my set. That should not be anything that I think about.
I'm going to give both of us a dose of hard medicine. And listen, if you agree with me, you agree with me. If you don't, I'd like to know why. Or if you feel like I need a stronger dose of medicine, feel free to give it to me. But when Bill Burr was talking about that and how you hold the mic and how you do certain things, you know, one of the things that, and I will often study the room while they study you. And when you're on stage, sometimes I sit in the back of the room and I look at people's body language and I watch people watch you because I'm trying to study their reaction to you based off things you do and say. And there will be times sometimes when we do stand up in places and I notice you'll lean back up against the wall and you'll hold the mic in your hand, or you lean up against the wall and you put your arm in back of your back and hold the mic with your hand and you kind of relax. And I wanted to say to you sometimes, and I mean this with all due respect, you're not funny enough to lean up against the wall and take it easy. I look at you sometimes and I go, it comes off lazy. And when you come off lazy, the crowd responds lazy. And to me, I'm not funny enough to where I can just be cool and sit on the stage like Dave, on a stool like Dave, and go slow. I feel the need to go at 100 miles an hour and crank the power all the way up because, again, if Dave is Miles Davis and he's cool jazz, I hate to say it like this, but I'm using music terms. Again, if I was using sports terms, I'm Mike Tyson in the early 80s. I'm trying to knock you out in the first round. I'm trying to knock your fucking head off your shoulders into the nosebleed section. But if we're talking music, Dave is Miles. I'm that hardcore metal shit. I'm that shit. Niggas in a mosh pit. I'm aggressive. And I want to be Dave and sit on a stool and take my time and be cool. But I'm not good enough to do that. I'm not confident enough to do that. That's, to me, my hard medicine.
No, I disagree with you completely.
All right.
I don't think you're not good enough to do that. I don't think you're secure enough to do that.
I just said that.
Yeah, but it's not about being good enough. I think you really have a fear of silence, a true fear of it. Like if they're not laughing, they're not enjoying themselves. And when you said that about me leaning up against the wall and it seems lazy, I feel like I'm doing my best work when I'm leaning up against the wall.
Really?
I feel like that is when I am slowed down. I'm not looking for the laughter. I'm just giving them the story. And I guarantee you, when I leave that room, I feel proud of it because I really believe that if people came and paid to come see you and I get 100% of the room to laugh at me, I just did what Ari Spears' crowd would like to hear. When I come off that stage and half the room liked me, I feel like I did comedy. Like I gave half. If half likes me, I feel like I did.
That's insane.
I did my job because
so if there are 300 people in a room, max capacity, and 150 liked you, and the other half didn't, that's good to you.
I did my job. I did what I was supposed to do. Because I'm not trying to develop Ari Spears' crowd. Your crowd isn't going to follow me. Your crowd isn't going to come with me.
Why are you looking at it as my crowd? A crowd is a crowd.
No, they paid to see Ari Spears.
It doesn't matter.
It does.
Listen, let's put it in a box.
Because my style is not like your style.
Let me take it. Okay, but listen, let's put it in boxing terms.
Okay.
Let's say you paid your hard-earned money to see the main event, but the main event stunk, and the undercard was phenomenal. You think people are going to deny the undercard because it wasn't the main event? They're going to go, yo, the undercard should have been the main event.
And I hope that in that 150, maybe 10 people liked it that much. But I don't need all of them to like it that much. If I try to, you just said a great point. Would you say you're Tyson then, right?
Yes.
So if the undercard was an Ali fight that he went and decided to do rope-a-dope and do 12 rounds,
okay,
you think that that's not as good as a fight?
No, I wouldn't say that because that was its own what's the word I'm looking for?
Master free.
Master free.
Yeah, no.
That's what a nigga is when he doesn't enslave no more. He's master free.
Masterful.
That kind of masterful performance was its own thing. I don't know that that's the greatest comparison.
But you're looking for something that you understand.
Okay, Andy, let me put it to you like this and tell me if this makes sense to you. Yeah. You often, when we do these clubs, talk to the managers, right? Uh-huh. And go, hey, if you ever need somebody to headline, I'm available. Mm-hmm. Do you think if you made half the room laugh, they want you to headline?
If they like the material.
No. They don't give a fuck about the material.
Yeah.
They care about the dollars. And they care about making sure that them seats get filled and return customers. If half the room does not like you, that's not good.
No, it's not. It's not.
That's not going to make them hire you as a headliner. Yeah. If half the room out of 300 people don't like you, that means 100. That's 150 customers lost.
Okay, let's do this a different way. And I'm going to have to take it this way. If I continue to try to make your crowd laugh at your joke, at me.
Why do you keep saying my crowd?
Because they paid to come see Ari Spears.
Andy, a crowd. Yes, they did.
Right. Okay.
But they're not going, well, we're not this comedian's crowd. So what do you think they're doing? Holding back? Thinking they're going to behave a certain way? Funny is funny.
Right.
And if you deliver and deliver well,
you're right.
They don't care about that.
You're right. And that's why Richard Pryor was doing Bill Cosby. Because he wanted to be funny. He wanted to be on TV. He wanted to be booked. He wanted to make money. And then he realized he won Bill Cosby. I'm not Ari Spears.
Okay, but you're not, but we're not talking about you trying. That's one thing if you're talking about trying to be on your own, develop your own identity or whatever. But at that particular moment, when it's time for you to be on stage, it's not about you trying to win over my crowd. They're a crowd, period.
Right. And I can't win over 100% of that crowd.
Well, then that speaks more to your ability.
No, it doesn't. Because it's something that this is something.
So there's an element here that's stopping you from winning over that crowd.
It's what Earthquake. I remember Earthquake saying this to me. He said, "Andy, just do your jokes." He goes, "You don't need the whole crowd. You might not."
Patrice said that.
No, but Earthquake said this to me.
I know, but Patrice said that too.
If you get 10 people that like you and are willing to come back and see you, and then you get 10 people from another show and 10 people from another show, now you have your crowd. He spoke specifically to me about that way.
I don't know that he meant that like that.
Okay, so here's what you're saying then.
Not by half, Andy. Half.
Okay, he said 10.
That's ridiculous.
10. He said 10. So crowds are a crowd.
Yes.
So if someone paid to go see Cat Williams, and he didn't make it, and you showed up, no problems?
Maybe. Because it ain't like they're getting Joe Blow nobody. They're still going to go, oh, shit, Ari Spears. Now, yes, we wanted to see Cat. We paid to see Cat. There may be a percentage that go, nah, it ain't Cat. But for the people that know who I am, and pretty much everybody that knows Cat knows me, they're going to go, oh, we're trading one heavyweight for another.
Now, am I a heavyweight? Do people know me?
They don't know you, but that's because you don't have credits.
So I need to be...
That got nothing to do with your ability.
Right, so I need to be me. Because when I do get on that on the marquee, I want people to come to see what I do, not what someone else does or in the style that someone else does. I want to do me.
But you keep saying that like somebody's asking you to be someone else. Nobody's asking you to be someone else. I'm saying just be as funny as you can be. And if you have the ability to be that funny, the rest takes care of itself.
That's the funny that I have the ability to be, that I'm being.
Okay.
That's the funny I enjoy. Why am I going to do this? Why am I going to do this to not enjoy it?
I didn't say nothing. It's got nothing to do with enjoyment. We enjoy what we do. The only time you and I, and we've agreed to this, the only time when we don't enjoy what we do is when the audience stinks and they make it work.
Yeah.
It's not about whether or not we enjoy it based on what we can do, based on our talent.
Right.
It's based on their response to it.
Hey, do you like skinny girls with flat asses?
No.
Would you fuck a skinny girl with a fat ass if that was all that's available?
If that was all that was available and I was that horny, yeah.
So I go in the room and they came for Ari Spears. I come up there. I ain't what they want. They're going to listen to me if I'm funny and they're going to take my funny with them. Some people are going to like that funny and really appreciate it. But other people are just going to be, that was all that was in the room. So I stuck through it. I'm not you.
I see what you're trying to do, but listen again. It boils down to, do you possess that ability? It's almost like, again, when Scott Burrell told Jordan, I hear what you're telling us you want us to do, but we're not you. We can't do what you do,
right?
And I know you want to equate that to, I can't. Nobody's asking you to do what Aries does. Nobody's asking you to be Aries. All I'm saying is you can be Andy, but if Andy's level of funny is high enough, strong enough, the rest takes care of itself.
Okay, but that takes understanding and work too. There's a couple jokes I'm doing right now that you were firmly against when I started doing it.
Still against.
When they're working. They're not?
They're getting by. They're getting by.
I have people coming up and equating me to comics that, and like I said, it's not the whole room. It's a smaller part of the room. They'll come up to me. I haven't laughed at that's somebody, and they would name certain comics.
Let me say something. There are certain audiences. Brunswick, Boston, where are we now? Philly, DC. There are certain audiences that when they like you and they're good energy and they're a good crowd, they listen, attentive, they're comedy fans, they're with you. But then there are other places throughout the country we go to where you do those same jokes and they almost hate you.
Yeah.
Nothing is 100%. There are places I go where I could do a joke or two of mine that don't get as strong a response as they do throughout the rest of the country. But for the most part, my playbook is my playbook. And 90% of it works to where it don't matter where I'm at. Niggas is dying. Certain places you go to, those jokes work. Other places, not at all. What I'm saying is when you have the kind of funny and the ability to make your shit work pretty much everywhere, now we're talking a different level.
So what's interesting, though, is when you name comics or when you want to talk about comics, no one is ever comparing me to the comics that you think of. People are talking about other comics that they like in a different, that are do not do the same style of comedy you do. So I'm happy with that. I'm secure with that. That's fine with me. I'm building up a different crowd than you get.
Okay.
And I appreciate it. Now, like, do I ever think it's going to be as big as you? No, I don't. But this is my set.
Okay. I just, when you say certain jokes or bring up certain things, and I go, yo, that's funny, or you believe it's funny, and then when it's time to put it on its feet, you either bail in some way, change it up, and then that's why I'm asking you, why are you doing that?
It might not feel like me. It might not feel like me on stage.
But it felt like you when you said it.
Yeah, but there's still a difference. And putting it in context for a joke is different too than just me and you talking on the street.
Right. Because
there's very funny people at work that are just talking, and they're the funniest people at work. But when they go to put that on stage, it doesn't work.
Right. I just think that sometimes you get in your head too much.
Oh, I'm sure I do.
Okay. You know, one of the things I really loved about, and this is, you know, you've heard me say this about,
Yeah, I got to stop you for a second.
oh,
Because this isn't business, man. This isn't personal, man. I just fucked that up.
yes, you
Let me do it again. Steve, we're going to cut that out. I got to stop you again, man, because this isn't personal.
it's just business.
There we go.
You know, I've said this before, and I've complained about this with Hollywood. You know, how I talk about it often feels like Hollywood stays in the same formulaic ways of entertainment until someone new, fresh, and exciting shows them how to do it, which is often its most anticipated when it's just real and honest as opposed to formulaic bullshit. The same old comedy cliches, dumb, lazy, lost husband with the smarter wife than him, he can't survive without. Like when Carlin had that partner, forget what his name was, Jack something.
At the very beginning.
Yes, the very beginning. And they would do those things for the car commercial reads. And they would do it as the classic TV formulaic delivery versus how two real people would talk about a car.
Right.
And I'm just going, you would think that with all this time that has gone by, why does Hollywood stick to the same formulaic shit when they don't understand? They don't, it's the trend of when something fresh and new comes along and it hits, then that's what they all jump on. But until someone does that, they stay stuck in that bullshit.
Because they just want to go to where the money is. They're not looking for a new path to get to the money. It's just about the money. I can't stand this, but because I always said, and you know, this also has to do with being an artist. I mean, you look at it differently as an artist. You're like, why would you stay with that same formulaic bullshit? And there's other people who go, that's fine. That represents everything I needed to represent. But as an artist, I always say, if you follow the path that was laid out in front of you, you're not going to see anything new and different.
Right.
And that's the only way to be an artist, is to look for things that are new and different.
Right. Towards part 2, I thought Rick Moranis did a pretty damn good George Carlin.
He did an unbelievable George
That was
Carlin.
pretty damn good.
But, you know, we talk about this a little bit with actors. When do they become a character of themselves, a caricature of themselves?
Right.
And that shows how much of a caricature Carlin had become, that you could, to do an impersonation like that,
Right.
and to cartoon it up that way, Carlin had to be that in order for it to happen.
Right.
So, but Moranis, I mean, I didn't even see Moranis. He did such a good job even when he was doing it. I didn't
really
see
did.
Moranis.
And this is why I got to call out a little bit of this. This is why I go, Hollywood, the comedy, it's all a fraternity. You know, and I know Carlin is very well respected. But that moment when Bill Burr was describing Carlin talking about saving the planet, and Rogan's parallel thinking, I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but I have said this a million times. And I used to say this early in my teens, where I went, it's such an arrogant notion to think that the planet needs saving. Planet's been here for hundreds of millions of years, through dinosaurs, through everything. If anything, we need to save ourselves. And if we're really being honest, and calling this like it is, when we go save the planet because man, and he labels it man, all the destruction that man has caused, from the fucking ozone layer to the this to the that, that's led to the destruction and the brutalization of the planet because of man. Say white man. Because niggas ain't controlling nothing or making nothing or building factories that are helping to destroy all this. Say white man. Don't put that off on man. And this arrogant notion that somehow we need to save the planet. And this is where I agree with George's truth. He goes, we're nothing to the planet. We're like fleas. We're this. And he ends it with, like shaking us off like fleas. And they cut to Bill Burr. And Bill goes, that moment when he did that shake, it jolted me out of my seat. It was so, did it, Bill? Did it jolt you out your fucking seat? All of that rant to end it with, whoa, brilliant.
Maybe he
He
felt.
showed us how insignificant we are. I was jolted. Turn the fucking volume down. That was not that genius.
Maybe it was to him at the time.
Oh, stop it.
At the time.
That is the George Carlin kiss the ass of the great trailblazer. Get the fuck out of here. That was not that fucking genius, and it shouldn't have jolted you out of your seat.
I don't think that Bill does that. Do you think he really does that? Do you think he succumbs to like
No,
the popular theory?
I think he's paying respect. But to say that it jolted you, like, come on, man. There have been comedians that have done bits that are far more superior in terms of genius and worth talking about. That move, that jolted you out of your seat.
I think the intellectual part of that joke was could have been kind of phenomenal to him.
Fuck off.
If that was the first time he heard it at a young age. How old was he when he heard that? Maybe it meant something to him.
Bill's jokes are 10 times better than that.
Yeah, but he had someone else laid out the blueprint.
Okay.
You know, that you do have to give credit for people that lay out the blueprint.
And I've been saying that. I get that part. But let's not make shit up.
But you have years of other comics that you've heard at that time when that statement was made. Maybe Bill didn't have a lot of comic references to go off of at that time. He said, and this is the thing that I like about Bill, because this was the honesty about Bill. We went to go see him at I think it was in Jersey that they went to go see him because they were going to heckle him because there was this old guy, the hippy dippy weatherman, doing 7 Dirty Words.
Right.
They actually went out to shit on him and then saw this other kind of side. And when the bar is where it was with Bill, they went to go heckle him, and then he comes out with something that changed the thought process.
Well, if he would have done that, that would have been comedy blasphemy anyway. You don't do that.
Yeah, I know.
Don't do that.
That's why he doesn't like talking about that part. Burr's admitted it before. He's admitted that he went to that's what his thought was. But that's how it worked out for him. So maybe that moment was a big deal. Maybe that inspired Bill.
Right. Maybe you can explain this to me. Again, and I know part of Carlin's thing was being a play on words. When he said, why is it my grain when it should have been your grain? Why is it hysterectomy? Should it be her directory? Now, if that means what I think it means, I think I get it. Explain to me why I'm not laughing at that.
Because wordplay doesn't tickle your fancy.
Simply that.
That's it. It doesn't do me that much either.
Okay.
He does those long little rhyme things too that he did. And maybe, and this is where it is, and I have to use history as this, because maybe at the time when no one had done that before, it was innovative and creative.
Okay, then that's what I'll give it then.
Yeah.
Maybe it just is dated.
Because at that time.
But I get it. Why is it my grain when it should be your grain? Why is it I'm going to take a shit? Aren't you leaving a shit? Mm-hmm. Like, okay.
But and then again, that's what Moranis made fun of, because it was, maybe when no one had done it before, it was new. But after you do it once, it's easy. Now everybody's doing it.
Okay. Do you have anything you want to add on, Carlin?
Man, I watched the same thing you did, and I had basically the same questions you did. The wordplay, I was going to ask you if you thought that
right.
was anything. Because we still do wordplay today in our jokes. We just...
Dude, my joke is the wordplay about, the suck my dick versus suck my dick.
But
I'm doing that.
But it's within a story and something that takes you somewhere besides just wordplay, right?
See, and this is why I'm a better fucking comic than Carlin. I'm a fucking genius.
But at that time, but let's say that there's a lot of comics that I think are better comics than Carlin. I do, which everybody can go. But at that time period, could these comics be the comics they are without Carlin? That's the question. That's the other question. Could these other comics be the comics without Pryor?
Let me go back.
I don't think that happens.
But let me go back to the thing about religion and slavery real quick. So when black people go, we prayed for 400 years while we were getting hung, identity stripped, castrated, our women raped, children, family members sold off into auctions. 400 years of that. And I'm sure niggas did a lot of praying. So finally we get freed. And I'm sure there were black people going, see, the Lord, he done answered our prayers. God is good, ain't he? All the time. And I go, don't give God that credit. Change is inevitable. That's life. So I'm saying, of course there's going to be a Carlin. Of course there's going to be a Pryor. That's inevitable. Now, you have to give them their credit because they blew the doors open. But them existing is inevitable. That's going to happen no matter what.
Yeah, but they brought something that wasn't being done. It seems so, everything seems so easy. The round wheel seems like you couldn't even imagine a world without a wheel. But until someone invented the wheel, people didn't have a way to get around.
Okay.
It still takes someone to bring it to life.
And I'll give it the credit for that. I will.
And once you bring it to life, it makes it much easier for the people afterwards to build on top of it. But the foundation wasn't there before these guys.
Right. Okay.
My favorite comic, I hear people all the time going, no, he's just not the best. And it's Pryor. And I think it's unbelievable.
I don't hear that many people say that about Pryor.
I've been hearing a lot lately because the younger young
comics,
they don't see it.
Yeah, well, they don't belong in comedy then. And most of them don't do their homework anyway. They don't know past today.
They don't.
They don't go back and look at history. No, they don't.
No. And they don't, and you know what's, and you need to go back further and not to belittle any of the comics that came before, the setup punch comics, the 1-2 comics, the white comics.
The Abbott and Costellos or the Laurel and Hardys.
And Abbott and Costello, as famous as they are, that the
Who's on first?
That wasn't their bit. That was a street bit at the time. There was other, I shouldn't say it was a street bit. There was other comedy duels doing that joke. But going back to that time, you have to listen to the setup punch jokes, the monotony of those jokes, the rhythm of those jokes to understand that they had to break free of that. And that's what their people aren't realizing. There was already something built and you didn't go past this. Someone had to. Right. That's why it's important when Carlin says you have to know where the line is and not accidentally step over the line, intentionally step over the line. And if you want to accuse me of anything that I don't do well, I don't intentionally step over the line well. I stay within my line, and that's the problem. I don't need to intentionally step over the line. I need to intentionally step over my line. I have a line that I need to erase.
Okay, we can bleed into the hall now if you want.
Yeah. Because the first question I asked you, did you feel it felt, and the hall for the people that don't know, as we just jump into this was another special on Netflix. I just felt it was a little contrived feeling.
Well, they were inducting into this, I want to say make-believe institution.
A social media digitalized Hall of Fame?
Yes.
For comics?
And the inductees were Joan Rivers, Richard Pryor, George Carlin, and Robin Williams. And each one of them had their own, I don't know if presenter's the right word.
Yeah.
Presenter. Carlin had Jon Stewart. Chelsea Handler had Joan Rivers. Dave Chappelle had Richard Pryor. And John Mulaney had Robin Williams. And at one point, John Mulaney was referencing people and depression, saying that the stereotypical beliefs that all comedians and their humor comes from a dark, sad, depression-like place. And his response was, get the fuck out of here with that. And I'm just going, it's kind of ironic that he's honoring and inducting a guy who killed himself due to depression, but would so easily dismiss that notion.
Yeah, but he doesn't dismiss it because he comes back later in that same sequence and then said there's a lot of people that suffer from depression that don't have the decency to become funny comics.
That was a good line.
So that he's tying those two together.
Okay.
Like you don't dismiss it because they're just basically crazy people. No, we're not allowed to call people with depression crazy people.
Right.
But they're just depressed, people that have some issues. And then he brings it back because there's plenty of people in this world that are depressed and have issues, and they don't have the decency to become good comics. So I think that's the tie-in that he was trying to make the parallel thought between.
Okay, I didn't catch that. I love how Dave Chappelle, and this might seem like nothing to most people, but I loved when Dave came out he had the guy bring him a cord mic.
Yeah.
He didn't want the cordless. And this is where, you know, as comics, we look for little tidbits of inspiration and things that could link us to people we admire and hopefully go, oh shit, he said that, I said that. He thought that, I thought that. And I'm old school, man. I hate cordless mics. It's something about having that cord that makes me feel like a comic.
It makes me feel tethered to the stage, like I'm part of this stage.
Yes, we are one.
Yeah.
I don't like cordless mics, man.
I don't either. But, you know, there's people, Titus. Titus uses a cordless mic and the headset.
Oh, I really hate that.
Man, I get why he does, because now everything's free and loose.
Right,
but
right.
I like to feel like there's some constriction holding me to the stage.
This feels like if we're football players, a helmet. This is part of our uniform. The stool, the stage, the mic, and, you know, maybe a drink. It's all part of the uniform.
It's also the weight of this mic. Sometimes we go to clubs and they have like a cheap the AMG, I think it's AMG mic, and it doesn't have this weight to it.
Right.
Now I want to go, can you get me a real mic? Because I need to feel like this pound and a half.
Right.
In my this is part of the whole thing.
Right.
Moving this around.
Yes.
The cord that's kind of in your way, that's keeping you again tethered to the stage. I need that. And when you told me that you hated cordless mics, now when I see one, I'll go to the people. And I don't say it about me because I hate that cordless mic too, but I'll go, Aries hates the cordless mics. And I know that I might have to do one set with the cordless mic, but I know we're going to get it fixed for the weekend.
When we were in, I think you and I share this, one of our most hated clubs, Atlanta. Was it Keys? Was it the Keys?
Yeah, that's the, I forgot the
whatever
name
it was. As much as I hated that club, on top of it, it was a cordless mic. And I already hated the room and the fucking people and the energy. But to do it with a cordless mic, cordless mics to me are like condoms, nigga. I don't like them.
I understand you not liking them, but to me, it has a lot to do with the weight, and I need to see this.
Yes.
This is just something.
Yes.
I don't know what it is.
Listen, and that's why I'm going, Dave is old school. He's Pryor. He's Murphy. He's that soul. And this is soul. This is part of the soul.
Am I allowed though to say anything negative about Dave?
Yes.
If he doesn't stop slapping his leg with that mic, I'm going to lose my shit.
You know, I'm going to say this. I don't know if you caught this. And maybe this is just my insignificant, stupid observation. But when Dave at one point referred to Pryor as the GOAT, it felt like he didn't like doing that because he's the GOAT. I could be off. I probably am. But I sensed a little bit of vanity in him because I know at least on 2 of his specials, definitely Sticks and Stones, or was it The Closer? One of those, he goes, something, 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 and that's why they call me the GOAT. Like, so he believes, dude, he's the GOAT. And when he had to surrender that to Pryor, it was something in his eyes where he just went, I'm calling this nigga the GOAT, but I don't want to.
I think if you really look closely at his lips, he went, the GOAT at his time.
Right.
In his day.
Right.
You know, because Pryor, I'm not like no one else. And I mean this wholeheartedly. And I mean this to my core. And that's why I say what I say. Pryor laid it out better than anyone else of what comedy was up until Dave. And that's why they're to me, it's 1A and 1B. I can't separate the two. Right. But I love what fucking I love what Chappelle's doing with it.
Isn't it amazing that in comedy, when you say that, Pryor and then Dave, it's like you go, wait a minute, you just gonna bypass Eddie Murphy? But I understand why you would. Eddie, comedically, his body of work is raw and delirious.
2 albums.
So it's like when people go, it's Jordan and LeBron, Jordan and LeBron. A lot of Kobe fans go, wait a minute. How you fucking bypass Kobe? Really, it's Jordan and Kobe, then LeBron. So I'm just going, I hear you saying that, and I agree with you. But I go, damn, we really just bypassing Eddie Murphy? But yeah.
Because I do think I do think Eddie Murphy is a genius in like every bit of it in his own right, but he has 2 albums. And the other thing is I don't believe you get Murphy at all without Pryor at all.
Right.
Any, I don't think it's there. I know that.
So without Pryor, you don't think Murphy still happens though?
Mm-mm.
Really?
Not like that. Not like that. There's something, but Murphy, but see, this is the other thing that you have to give Murphy credit for. He was 19.
Yeah. When he joined SNL.
And on another level than anyone on SNL.
Right.
I mean, the genius behind him.
But to be honest, I mean, I don't think it would have, if anything, I think it would have enhanced his genius because he would have had teammates. But really, other than Joe Piscopo, who really wasn't that much bigger, but who else was on that show that could give Eddie a run for his money? Nobody.
Not at the time, but prior to him being on that show, you had Bill Murray, Chevy Chase.
Prior,
but you had that, and they were forgotten about like that.
I know, but imagine if Eddie was with them.
Oh, I think we would have had something completely different. But I would have liked to seen how Belushi and an Eddie Murphy worked together.
Oh,
I don't know how it would have worked together.
I think it would be magic.
No, yeah, but you're talking about 2, just headstrong, forward.
Yeah, but them 2 talents, man.
And the other thing about it is Belushi was the things that I don't know how much people know about Belushi, but Belushi hated that there was musical guest on the show. He thought, the Killer Bees that he had,
right.
They thought they should have been the musical guest every single weekend. He wanted it to be encompassed.
That was a good call.
I know, but I'm just saying he would have loved someone with the talent of Murphy that could come and sing, that would want it to sing, do sketches, do comedy, do everything. I think that if he had someone on there like that, who knows how that show could have been if they would have bonded.
Right.
But I'm telling you that Eddie Murphy is in a different category, and I don't want to say that he's not a GOAT in his right, but
not stand up,
but straight up stand up. It's Pryor. He's my A1, and then there's it's Chappelle, but he's A2 only because he came after, not because I can say one clearly is better or than the other one. But I love what Chappelle's doing with comedy. I love what he's working comedy to be in. No one's changed the art form that much since Pryor changed the art form.
Right.
So it's not a. I just feel like it sounds like I'm just giving a love fest out, and I'm not trying to.
When Jeff Ross, it's one of those, I wish I thought of that. When Jeff Ross said that Louis Anderson was so fat, he took his aspirins covered in mayonnaise, nigga. Oh my God. That is hilarious. The very thing that's supposed to help you from sickness, he covers in death. That is fucking awesome. Oh boy, it's time for me to take my aspirin. Someone get me some mayonnaise. That's hilarious, nigga.
What do you got up there next? Because I have a question for you.
Maybe it's because I have such a disdain for Chelsea Handler now.
That's what I was going to ask you. Due
to the coward-like way she chose for me to have my walking papers. But it didn't feel legit to me, her respect towards Joan Rivers. It felt like the way that the other inductees, presenters talked about them in an admirational way, an appreciative way, legitimately, honestly. It felt like Chelsea was there just to be the woman to represent a woman. Kind of like Dave being the black guy to represent the black guy. Because if they had a white dude induct Pryor, and you go, well, damn, you wasn't no niggas around comedically that could have done that?
Couldn't you have a black dude induct Robin Williams then? And then would it be a difference?
If you didn't have a black dude induct Pryor?
Yeah, if you just swapped out white and black dudes. I think it could have been more interesting.
Yes, but I still think that as a black person, I'm going, word.
Yeah, but in the way they did it now, it was just very like, okay, woman,
black guy.
Then 2 white guys, get 2 more white guys.
And I'm not mad at that.
I'm not either, but I'm saying, could have it been interesting?
Maybe.
If there was representation, but you got it.
But I'm going the same way you're going. So there's one prominent black guy, and you're not going to have him represented by a black guy. You got one prominent woman, and you got a man doing that, you had to have a woman. You had to have a black guy. I just don't feel like she legitimately was appreciative. I think if you would have got Whitney Cummings or Sarah Silverman, you would have felt it. It felt to me like she was reading off a cue card and just there to do a job.
I'm not going to shit on Chelsea Handler, but I'm going to say Sarah Silverman, to me, would have been a very interesting choice.
I think she'd have been more appropriate.
But here's my question.
Because she was just as cutting and edgy and unapologetic as Joan.
Yeah. Now, here's my question, though, when we go back to the other thing. Wouldn't it have been interesting, though, if a guy did induct Joan Rivers and given you a different insight from not a woman's point of view, how that comedy affected a dude. And then if you had a white dude in prior, how that was, and Robin, a black dude, you would have got another insight that don't.
I see what you're going. I see what you're doing.
I'm not saying that's necessary. I'm just saying when you talk about formulaic,
right?
And they come up with these little because they want to make it easy on themselves, and they don't want any of these questions. Oh, there's a black dude and a black dude brought up by a woman and brought a woman. You know, so it's all fair. I just think sometimes it does a disservice because if you could show how meaningful Pryor was even to a white guy, how meaningful Robin Williams could have been to a black guy, doesn't that also serve a purpose too? Because comedy is supposed to have a through line in it that is supposed to be funny to all.
Yes. Next time.
Okay. I'm not disagreeing with that.
First go round, we got established.
Not disagreeing with that.
Second time, yes. If you want to induct Flip Wilson, okay, have a white guy come and talk about what Flip Wilson meant to him. If you want to induct Phyllis Diller, all right, have a dude come mention what Phyllis Diller meant to him.
Who inducts Bill Cosby? Well, no, wait, before
I'm trying to give a funny answer.
No, let's not even give a funny answer. Let's ask this question, though. Does Bill Cosby deserve to be inducted into a hall of comedy?
Yes, absolutely he does.
But will he be?
Probably not.
Yeah, but he deserves it on comedy.
Right.
This isn't, and here we go. I already start, the horribleness, everything you got. But was this comedy valid to be inducted?
Yes.
Passed. Because when we talk about Pryor, we can talk about Pryor, and I said he changed it. But who was the forefront of comedy before Pryor?
You know, Andy, it's funny because you talk about seeing things from a different perspective, and I couldn't agree more. That's why if they ever do an induction where they're talking about the new young people in the game, I would love for Sarah Silverman to be inducted by me. I would indict her immediately and put her where she needs to be in terms of an inductee. I keep saying inductee, I mean inducted. Or maybe I would duct tape her and then indict her into the inductee. All right.
Okay, so everything just went out the window.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I agree with you. Chelsea Handler's fine. I mean,
It just felt like I didn't, like when Jon Stewart did it, I believed it. I saw it in his face. When Mulaney did it, I believed it. When Dave did it, I believed it. Chelsea just felt like she was reading off a screen, like she could have cared less.
I think that's part of Chelsea's character.
Yeah, it might be.
And not her personal character, just the character that she presents, that she is a very, carefree, not giving a fuck kind of person. She's just enjoying.
Listen, if we're in the business of comedy, and the golden rule as a comic is to be able to dish it and take it comedically, then that's what it is. And the fact that she couldn't take it tells me all I need to know.
And you think that's really the reason that you weren't on it?
Yes. I outshine that bitch on her own show. How dare I?
But then you got to have a bunch of other comics saying that she was, at that time, she was the only person giving come-ups to comics. Because there was no other place to go other than Letterman. And Letterman wasn't having a ton of comics on.
You can come up, just don't come up on her. And I didn't even really intend
that
to
wasn't
do
your
that.
intention, yeah.
I was just I thought that's what we were doing. But, there it is. That's all we got.
Do we induct everybody?
Yeah, that was it. Joan, Pryor,
but
Robin,
before we
and
cut this
Carlin.
off, did Joan Rivers mean anything to you as a comedian? Or was she too far up before your time?
A little bit before my time. And I appreciate who she was and what she meant and what she did. Again, you have got to tip your hat to anybody that blazes a trail and kicks the door open for those behind them or those yet to come. I'm never going to deny that. But if I watch Joan Rivers, do I go, ha, ha, ha? No, but I also go, it's a good joke.
It's different for me only because I came up in a time when Carol Burnett was on TV.
Right.
Was Carol Burnett?
See, that's Carol Burnett show?
Yeah.
Me and my dad watched that as intensely as we watched Eddie Murphy on SNL.
Okay.
Carol Burnett was a funny bitch.
She's very funny.
Right.
When Joan Rivers was on her show, who was funnier?
Carol Burnett.
I think Joan Rivers was funnier. She was saying shit that Carol Burnett would never say. She took comedy to a different level where I saw it as funnier. To me, that's when I got. I didn't understand it because it was more sexually pointed. I was young, but I was like, why is that funny? Why is she getting these big laughs? What is this? And Carol Burnett to me was always very funny sketch, but not necessarily like a stand-up. She wasn't a stand-up.
Right.
So I mean, I look at and this other statement that was made when they said female comics would run up to Joan Rivers and goes, "I just appreciate you for kicking the door in because without you, I wouldn't have been out." And she said, kicking it in. I'm still kicking it in for you. I'm still opening the door for you. I'm still, what are you talking about? Thanks for what you did. I'm still doing it.
Yeah, you know, and listen, rightly so. And I get it. And I'm going to always be a champion for this because I believe that there are some comics who don't get their just due, who Hollywood sleeps on, who sometimes are not let into the fraternity of this thing called comedy and show business. And people will label it as a bitterness, a jealousy, an envy. No, we just want our fucking credit. And I'm one of those people where I've said repeatedly, I know from the fans and the streets, let them tell it, not me, them tell it. I'm a legend, I'm a GOAT, I'm this, I'm that. Fine, thank you. But I wish I got that respect from the industry. But we won't get into the whys and of all that because we've been down that road. But yeah, motherfucker, I got to beat my own chest sometimes because I go, yeah, me. And I think Joan Rivers and certain other comics, that's them going, yo, don't ignore me.
Well, I think Joan definitely got that because when she was on the Tonight Show, and she was the only woman, first of all, that was hosting it at the time, and then, was being the guest host, and she was killing, so much so that she got her own show. And then that was the end between her and Johnny Carson. Right. And Johnny Carson, this is where you have to know the history of comedy, was the most powerful man, even though he wasn't a stand-up, he was the most powerful man in comedy.
If he told you to sit on the couch, you were made.
There was only 3 stations at the time. There was no cable. So, and for him just to cut her off like that, I mean, she had to have a good show, and then she did have problems with her show. She did.
But then why did he get mad just because she got her own show?
Because now it was going to be competition, and he was grooming her. But this is the question: the NBC was apparently grooming her to be to take his space when she left, when he left. But we saw what happened when he did leave, and it was supposed to be David Letterman, and then it was another. So she did rightfully what she should have done, which an opportunity presented herself, and she took it. She did the right thing. It wasn't about friendship. She didn't look at it as anti-friendship. She looked at it that she had an opportunity. She wasn't going to take away. At that time, you had millions of people watching every night. So she was only looking for a small part of that on this new channel, which was Fox. And for people that are listening to this, if you don't understand this, Fox wasn't around in the early days, and that's what she did, and it anchored their network. But whatever. So I just wanted to bring that piece up because it's as like you said, you want your due, and you see what happens in this business. There's more to this business than just the business.
Yes. Want to give out some dates?
Yeah, I'll give them out. Guys, when you're listening to this, we're going to be in OKC. We're going to be at the OKC Comedy Club. It's called Bricktown. I like that comedy club. We've only been there once during COVID. During COVID,
right? Time during COVID.
And So we're back. We're excited to be there. Tommy T's in Pleasanton, California will be the following week, the 9th through the 12th. And if I didn't say the dates on OKC, I'm sorry. It's the June 3rd through the 5th. Tommy T's the 9th through the 12th of June. And then we have Father's Day off. I am going to be, though, I'm going to be somewhere in Phoenix. I don't know if I'm at CB Live or Tempe Improv or Stand Up Live, but I'll be at one of those. Anyway, on the... let's see, the 23rd, no, just the 24th to the 26th will be at Tacoma Comedy Club, June 24th to 26th. And on the 30th through, what is it? July 2nd, I think. Is it July 2nd or 4th? I am sorry, guys. July 2nd. We're going to be at Jacksonville Comedy Zone in Jacksonville, Florida.
From Travis Chappelle. I don't really know what the name of the song is. I think it's Dolu Shaku. I'm not sure.
What's word to the wise? It says on the top.
Well, it says subject word to the wise.
Oh.
But then that's usually, maybe it is word to the wise. I just don't know what Dolu Shaku is. Instagram at NONGMOTRAV.
What was the name again, though? Dolo. What was
Dolo, D-O-L-O.
You know what that is?
Dolo?
Isn't that the last words a white dude hears when he's tracking someone in Africa?
Dolo Shaku. Is that him right here? That is him. Dolo Shaku. We got him. All right. Other Instagram at Dolo. Oh, it's Dolo Shakur. Okay. At DOLOSHAKUR. And I think the song is called Word to the Wise. Enjoy.
Spears and Steinberg.
Thanks for listening to the Spears and Steinberg podcast. If you'd like to know who's responsible for this shit, it was hosted by Ari Spears and Andy Steinberg, produced by Steve Merrick and Anthony Holmes, executive producer, Big Papa, Robert Kelly, and Matt Kleinschmidt for the Laugh Button podcast. For more information on where to find us on the internet, visit SpearsburgPod.com.